Hey guys, Roger here again. So we've talked a lot about how to effectively optimize your website for SEO, whether it's on page, off page. I have my 5 website essentials that I have on my website that you can check to make sure that your website is effective. So we talk a lot about all of these things, about making sure that your website is effective, making sure that you're getting traffic drawn to you, making sure that your website is optimized for mobile, all of those sort of things. And if you're interested in any of those, remember to check out my blog, and that will really help you out in a lot of different areas. But a lot of times, even when you're searching on the internet, we get a lot of what to do, but what we don't normally get is a what not to do. So I have 3 things that we can look at that I want to share with you of what not to do on your website. So the first thing that we want to not do is we want to make sure that we have a CTA at the top. So we want to make sure that our CTA is at the top. So we don't want to have our CTA what's called below the fold. So the below the fold would be this. You can see my hand. Now you can't, right? You want to make sure that your CTA is at the top of the page, not to where they have to scroll down and then they see it. They want to know exactly what it is that you want them to do. So we don't want to hide our CTA. We don't want to have a hidden CTA or a passive CTA. Really quick, let me explain what a CTA is. That's a call to action. So that's where you see the schedule a call or buy now or book a call, book a flight, something to that extent. We want them to know exactly what we want them to do. We don't want a passive one. We don't want a learn more sort of thing. While that can be a secondary CTA, that shouldn't be our main CTA. Our main CTA should call them to action, which is why it's called a call to action. So that is really important. So we don't want to hide or have a passive CTA. We want it right there at the top. The second thing is that we don't want to have confusing branding. We don't want to just kind of be vague and tell them, well, give them like a general problem, like, well, I know you are struggling with something, or man, wouldn't it be great if this, or you're just kind of going all over the place, almost like beating around the bush sort of thing. You want to really have a really poignant, really make sure that you're marketing your branding, that you're talking about your customers' problems, and that you're saying, hey, I can solve those problems through this. And that you're really, helping them kind of understand, hey, you have a problem. I understand that you have a problem. Let me help you out. That's what you want. You want to be able to speak to your customers, and you don't want to have confusing branding where you're talking about this and then you're talking about that, and all of a sudden, you're going all over the place. Or they're like, well, I think they can help me, or can they help me? As one of the authors that I like reading, Donald Miller, he says, if you confuse them, you lose them. And I know other people have said that as well, but that's really a big marketing thing. If you confuse your customers, you're going to lose their customers, because they're going to be like, I don't really know what they do. And they're just going to leave, and then they're going to find someone that does what they want them to do for them in their problem. And you want to make sure that you are focusing and making sure that your branding, that your marketing is speaking directly to your customers. And the third thing that you don't want to do is that you don't want them to exit to social media. Now, there's nothing wrong with social media, and there's nothing wrong with having a social media. That's great. But what you don't want to have is that you don't want to have your social media just blaring right there at the very front of your website to where they want to click on that and then they leave. How many of us have been like, well, I'm just going to go check out Facebook really quick, or I'm going to go check this thing on Instagram. And then all of a sudden we go down this hole and we tried to find this and we're like, oh, that looks funny. That looks interesting. And then all of a sudden 3 hours have passed and we're like, why in the world do I have 5 recipes for garlic bread? And what in the world is that cat going to do, right? You don't want to make them leave your website. Again, there's nothing wrong with social media, but remember, social media is rented space. You want your social media to bring them to your website, not take them away from your website. So that's really important to remember, because a lot of times, especially when social media was extremely popular, and it still is obviously, but people were like, oh, well, I needed them to go to my social media. No, you want to bring them to your social media. Remember, we also had talked about, the blogs, is that you want to make sure that your blogs and everything that you do put on social media are leading them back to your website so that they can see your video, your blogs, your content, your lead magnet, sign up for your email, all of that sort of stuff. You want to make sure that social media is as a helper, is not your main thing. So those are the three things that you don't want to do. You don't want to have a passive or a hidden call to action button. You don't want to have confusing branding. And three, you don't want them to go and exit to your social media. You want them to stay on your website. So those are three things that you don't want to do on your website. If you're listening to this or even reading my blog and you're like, oh man, I've definitely done that, and I know I've done that too. I'm still learning and I'm still getting this as I've been helping websites and helping them with their marketing. You want to make sure that you're growing your business by making them by helping them stay on your website, by making sure that you don't confuse them, that you make sure that you are solving their problem, and that you are calling them to action by staying on your website and signing up for your email list, scheduling a call, making sure that they are driving that you are driving traffic to your website. If you're like, man, I've done one of these, or I'm not sure if I'm doing one of these, or maybe I need help trying to figure out how to stop doing some of these, go ahead and head to my website. Down below, you can check it out. You can download my 5 website essentials that you do need on your website to have an effective website. And also, you can check out my blog. But schedule a call with me today. We can check out your website, make sure that it's not doing these things, and make sure that you do have the 5 essentials on your website to draw traffic to your website so you can help solve your customers' problems in the way that you can. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you later.